Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, and I do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation. Hedera DeFi Summer is in full swing, and Heliswap is a DEX that's ready to join in a serious way. There's a couple of entities behind Heliswap, Limechain and Mantra. Today we welcome John Mullen, the co-founder of Mantra, and Daniel Ivanov, a DLT architect at Limechain, to give us the full rundown. Daniel, John, welcome.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you guys. I am all about Hedera DeFi, so I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about this. To start off, can you just tell us about your own backgrounds and what made you want to start a DEX on Hedera? John, we'll start with you.
Awesome. I mean, I was going to say you should start with the true architect behind all this, but I could give maybe a little bit of the backstory because I think there is, at least from my perspective, I think there's a kind of an interesting story there. So obviously, I'm one of the co-founders of Mantra. We've been actually working with Limechain kind of as a software development firm on a number of different things outside of Hedera specifically. And we just have developed a really great relationship of working with them. We think they're really top class developers and builders. And honestly, more importantly, just really great people to work with, and that's really hard to find. And through that interaction, we became, really close with a lot of their team members, including one guy particularly. His name's Jivko. Shout out to Jivko. We, go back and forth, nothing to do with work, sharing memes and rap songs and all kinds of stuff because we just have similar interests. And because of that relationship, Jivko approached me one day and said, "Hey, we're doing some stuff with Hedera. We're going to be open sourcing one of the first DEXs on the Hedera network, and we've gotten a grant to do it, but we don't necessarily want to be the full team behind the go-to-market. So we're looking for a team to help us operate, run it, and kind of with the marketing, the biz dev, some of the strategy stuff." And we're like, okay, that's a really cool opportunity. Hedera is a new protocol with respect to kind of the retail interaction. Obviously, it's been around for some time, really vibrant and strong community, but it's hard to find those kind of opportunities where you're seeing a kind of a very strong community behind something, but very little, retail activity from a DeFi perspective. And we've been DeFi builders for some time now. So it really was an interesting opportunity to be a first mover. So we jumped at that opportunity and, here we are today.
Oh, good stuff. All right, Daniel, what's your background and what motivated you to get involved with Heliswap?
Yep. So I started in the Web3 space back in 2016 when I joined Limechain, which was a pretty small company at the time. Now we are around 100 people. We're mainly focused on blockchain development and solutions regarding that, whether it be consulting, etc. So for the vast majority of my time, I've been working in the Limechain team, but for the Hedera development team. So we were working closely with the Hedera Swirls team, to be exact, for, more than 2 years now. And during all this time, we've added a lot of features to the network, which ultimately the goal from the beginning was to enable such things on Hedera, such as DEXs or DeFi primitives, to basically advance the ecosystem. And working on the foundations for that long basically prompted us, or at least gave us the urge to actually build on top of it, on the application layer as well, not only the foundations. So that's why we actually were interested in creating Heliswap. So we approached JP and the Mantra team and proposed them to work on Heliswap together with them. So that's where the idea came from. We are just generally excited to build on top of the things that we initially worked on. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like you guys are involved with a lot more than just this latest DEX. It sounds like this is just the latest step. So we appreciate what you've done so far for the ecosystem. John, what services will Heliswap offer? Swaps, liquidity provision, yield farming, lending?
Yeah, I mean, so we're trying to be, a full service DeFi protocol and platform. And honestly, a lot of that is based off of the experience that we've had on the Mantra side of things. So on Mantra, we are currently running, a multi-asset staking platform, a lending product, a launch pad, a kind of a lottery pool product, and a bunch. And on top of a bunch of other stuff, building out a DEX ecosystem and a number of different things just on different chains or with different use cases specifically. And we want to bring a lot of that experience to what we're doing on Heliswap. Obviously, the core is going to be the swapping functions. We're obviously kind of positioning ourselves as a DEX with HTS and ERC20 capabilities. I'm sure Danny will talk a little bit more about that specifically because this is really part of his big vision for this. But outside of that, of course, we're going to have a lot of different yield farming opportunities. We've studied the DeFi space for some time now, and really we like to see that there's different opportunities that are not just kind of farm and dump, right? Because there's a lot of that, and we want to build out our yield farming strategies that are really longer term and sustainable in mind. So we think we have some interesting things that are going to be coming out in that regard. Outside of that, we're Mantra, before we rebranded and kind of showed the fuller scope and broader scope of what we're building, used to be called Mantra DAO. So that's a really important thing to note because we're actually going to be open sourcing and launching a bunch of different DAO governance modules that can be utilized by the Hedera community. And that's actually part of the Limechain grant that they received. So we'll talk about that too, I'm sure. But that's another thing that we really want to focus on providing infrastructure for the broader Hedera community to utilize. And then I think, of course, like I mentioned, we've already built working lending products that have supported millions of dollars of TVL, tens of millions, actually hundreds of millions. So we want to actually be bringing that over to Hedera as well. We think that's a very core pillar and primitive of the DeFi stack that's needed. And outside of that, I would say the options are endless of what we can actually continue to do on top of that. But that's already a lot of work in and of itself.
Sure. Okay, well, John already kind of touched on some of this, but Daniel, in your opinion, what is going to make Heliswap stand out from the pack?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and actually touches upon why initially we approached the HBAR Foundation. When you have the case for Hedera that relatively recently launched the upgraded version of the smart contracts, you don't have a lot of examples as developers to look at on how you can build dApps, etc. So what we did was approach the HBAR Foundation, mention that we want to do this implementation of a DeFi primitive that's proven to have a product market fit, and actually open source it. So with Heliswap, the thing that we see that would be a standout, let's say, is the fact that we'll be open sourcing everything, which in our opinion is crucial, because when you're interacting with a contract or a dApp, you absolutely need to know what's under there. What's the effect of your interaction? Not to interact with the black box or something like that. So that was part of the rules by the HBAR Foundation for granting us the funding for developing it. So immediately after releasing, we are going to open source it. Another thing that I think would be a good standout, in my opinion, is the fact that we do have the, let's say, expertise on everything that's going under the hood, because we already have the development team working on the actual network and the tooling and the different projects that are coming to Hedera. Something that's quite recently mentioned by Hedera and SwallowSwaps is a project called JSON RPC Relay, which is something that's very promising. We've been working on that on the Limechain side for several months now, and I do think that would be one of the biggest features or enablers that come to the Hedera network. Just as a TLDR, it basically enables anyone that has a normal Web3 wallet to interact with Hedera. So it opens the floodgates, so to say, for onboarding new users on the Hedera network. And our goal is to utilize this project and basically the JSON RPC relay as soon as possible to be able to provide that seamless experience to users, which is sort of unheard of until now for dApps on Hedera.
Well, it certainly sounds like you guys have the right experience to build this DEX. John, will Heliswap have a platform token?
Absolutely. So we're actually not going to be launching the platform with the token, though. Okay. So one thing we do is we want to launch the platform, and we do have, I think, two interesting things that are enabling us to not actually launch without the Heli token. So it's going to be called the Heli token. One of those is the liquidity incentives grant that we got from Hedera, which is the HBAR Foundation, I should say, to be exact, which is significant. And obviously we think people will be attracted to those HBAR rewards. But the other thing that I think is going to be very cool is, again, utilizing Mantra and kind of its existing DAO governance and its existing token ecosystem. We're actually going to be going through a grant process to ask the Mantra DAO through a public grant proposal to give a portion of OM tokens. So Mantra DAO's governance token is the OM, OM token, to give OM tokens that will then be ported over via Hashport, which I actually have a Twitter Spaces with Hashport in like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Talking about this specifically. And then porting that from ERC20 Ethereum token over to HTS, which will then also be used as rewards and liquidity provision on an OM HBAR pool. So that's how we're going to kind of start and launch this out. And then we want to launch the Heli token with the DAO.
Okay.
So that'll be a little bit after, maybe a couple months, 1 or 2, something like that. It's coming along quite nicely on the build on both the DEX as well as the DAO. I know we're going to talk a little bit about timelines and things like that. But yeah, so we are looking forward to having the actual DAO governance token out there, and it's going to be a very exciting thing about what we're doing. But we do want to have it with the DAO from day one, so there's functionality, there's utility, and things like this, so that when for example, because we're doing a Uniswap V2 fork, if the users through the DAO proposal mechanism want to turn on the fee switch, they can vote with the Heli token and turn that fee switch on. So then the tokens can start accruing value immediately if they so choose. Obviously, this will be done open source. It'll be done via DAO like governance, and we're really excited about that whole process.
That is exciting. And that's one of the things that I've noticed with Hashport. We're good friends with Jesse with Hashport, and it really doesn't matter where a token originates. You can swap it over with Hashport, and it becomes just like a native HTS token once it's in our ecosystem. So that is exciting. A quick follow-up, what utility is the Heli token going to serve, and can you explain the tokenomics real quick?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of utility, it obviously will be, its core will be a governance token, right? We also believe that, that fee switch method will be important because that's a clear value accrual mechanism for, rewards and kind of incentives from the protocol to be pushed down into the token holders' hands. And we're going to be continually building things on top of that. So, you will constantly have kind of value accrual back into the token. That's very important. In terms of tokenomics, it's quite a complicated thing to kind of explain truly, but I can touch on a couple different things just because I think they're kind of fun to
Sure.
speak on. One would be the actual total token supply. So we will have a fixed cap token supply. On the Mantra side, again, we're just leveraging a lot of the different things we've already done before. We've just always done things with 8s in our tokenomics. And that means on the OM side, we have 888,888,888 tokens. 8 is a lucky number in Asia, as I was telling you earlier. I live in Hong Kong, and we're going to continue that with the Heli token as well. So there will be 888,888,888 Heli tokens that will be in existence. Obviously, a lot of the kind of the buckets that we'll be utilizing will be for liquidity provision. There'll be a DAO pool that people within the DAO can vote on how these tokens are going to be used. There'll be a grants bucket. So a number of different things within the tokenomics that people can utilize for, building the community, building the ecosystem, and utilizing all these different cool kind of features and functionalities that we're going to be building out. I will just mention one thing with respect to tokenomics is we are kind of we're in the process of doing our private sale. So that's kind of going over pretty well at the moment. Obviously people are very interested. There's a lot of demand within the Hedera ecosystem, but also from the Mantra community. So that's another important thing. We're definitely leveraging that existing community of tens of thousands of people, and we've even baked that into tokenomics so that portions of the token supply will actually go towards people who are staking and participating on the Mantra DAO side, but they have to come over and do actions that benefit the Heliswap DAO side, meaning they have to come over, move their tokens, they have to then stake, they have to provide liquidity, they have to do trades, and in order to do that, then they will be entitled to a portion of the Heli token supply over a long period of time, several years, right? This is obviously beneficial to move a community from one side to the other, again, of tens of thousands of people, but also to, keep them incentivized to participate over here and do things that benefit the platform. So yeah, that's the kind of the crash course on the tokenomics. As I mentioned, we'll be doing a private sale at the moment. And then before we launch, obviously we'll be doing a very, small public sale. But, I think people are going to be pretty excited about it. We're not, we bootstrapped this, via mantra and via the kind of the grants that we've been receiving. So it's a pretty grassroots project, I would say. So we're pretty confident on how that's going, and we're also confident in the amount that even with a small amount of capital raise, we'll be able to really execute properly on this. So we're looking forward to that as well, and getting the hands of Heli and getting Heli in the hands of the community.
Yeah, sounds interesting. all of the 8 are going to make the math a little bit harder, but it sounds like a lucky number, so that's good. You talked about the timeline and the roadmap. When are you planning on launching?
Danny, I won't give you an exact date just because that's always a recipe for disaster on tech launches, but roughly in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, wow.
Next 2 weeks.
It's coming up real soon.
Yeah.
All right, so Danny, we'll
Yes,
move on to you. What security measures are you taking?
Yeah, so obviously we have based our contracts on the Uniswap V2 already battle tested contracts. However, in order for us to basically support HTS tokens, ERC20s, etc., we did have to do small changes. And because of that, we decided that it would be best to do an audit of this. So we did an audit of the contracts through HBAR. They are pretty prominent auditors in the sphere, because I don't know if you've heard, they recently, first of all, they're one of the importance criteria that we wanted to basically check is the fact that most of the auditors are very have expertise on the smart contract side, but very little of them know the details of the various protocols. For example, if you build smart contracts for the EVM world, you have plenty of auditors to touch upon. But on the Hedera side, when you do changes to the contracts that rely on the HTS service, for example, you need those auditors to know what HTS does, how it works, what are the limitations, what are the quirks, etc. So in our case, HBAR is an auditing company that works for not only audits smart contracts, but they actually work for prominent networks such as Avalanche and Solana, etc. So they have experience in auditing the actual protocols and networks as well. So when they did the audit, they haven't only focused on the contracts, which are very similar to Uniswap. They actually did and reviewed HTS service, how it works, the details, etc. So that brings up the confidence more. And the second thing is the yield farming campaigns. That's the second set of contracts. So say we have the DEX, we have the yield farming. So for the yield farming, we've based ourselves on a very, let's say, popular implementation related to the implementation of synthetics. This is basically the golden standard of doing yield farming. Again, we had to modify it slightly to allow for different features that, for example, HTS support, etc. But it's based off of something that's very prominent and widely used. So that's bringing us confidence in terms of security.
Okay, I gotcha. So what wallets are going to be integrated with Heliswap?
Okay, so the most prominent one right now that's integrated is Hashport. It's established itself as the go-to browser wallet for the
Hashpack.
Sorry.
Yes, Hashpack, Hashport. Getting mixed up. So yes,
yeah,
Hashpack.
Hashpack, sorry. Yeah.
We've been talking about Hashport already too. Shout out to May though.
That's right.
Legend.
Yeah, sorry for that. So that's the most prominent browser. We are supporting that. And as I mentioned, very soon in the Hedera ecosystem, there will be plenty of other wallets that will be supported through the Relay project. So I'm excited for that, as it will open up possibilities for different providers, wallet providers.
I gotcha. So John, how can the community get involved and help at this point?
Good question. I mean, we're definitely looking to kind of continue to build out the community ecosystem that we currently have. Getting in and joining our Telegram chat. We're going to also be launching a Discord soon, and just being a part of what we're going to be doing is probably the best way at this point in time. We're definitely doing a bunch of different events. We actually hosted a meetup in Hong Kong, which was the first Hedera meetup in Hong Kong together with Hashport, together with BCW, who's been a builder on the Hedera side for a long time, and Archaea, which is kind of an RPC node provider and infrastructure provider for the Hedera ecosystem. On Tuesday this week, I think, or Wednesday, I don't know, I can't remember. It's been a blur. At this cool crypto club called Clubhouse. So shout out to Clubhouse as well. So just getting involved in these type of things is a really great way to continue to build our community and give us thoughtful ideas on how we can serve your needs. Honestly, if there's different features, if there's functionalities, if there's different things that you want to see, again, the whole premise of this project is to be open source and be a community project from day one, and that we mean that, right? We're not even launching a token until that's the case, right? So we definitely need to build that community very strongly and very grassroots based. So in that case, just get in touch. We're very active. We're very responsive, and just talk to us.
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple of things on how can the community get involved as well. What we've seen is, for example, Uniswap that has a huge success. It's because they basically started with a mindset that they are public infrastructure. They are for the community. They are not operated by a set of people, etc. So we want to achieve something very similar to that with Heliswap. We want to go to the DAO route. And previously, I've been co-founder for another project which JP is involved as well, which it's called Enter DAO. We launched a DAO that's focused on metaverse-related infrastructure, and what we've seen there is that once you have the DAO, you have set it up, and you distributed the governance tokens to people, etc., through various mechanisms. It is very important to bootstrap a community that actually is involved in the DAO, for example, creates governance proposals, requests something to be done, etc. So when you create a governance proposal, for example, my team would like to build X, Y, or Z, it's voted by the community, it's actually built. So the power of the DAO comes when people get involved, create proposals, and actually do some contributions to the code base. Then they get rewarded. They can get additional, let's say, streams for governance tokens, etc. So that's the most, let's say, powerful way to build out to scale basically Heliswap.
All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I'd like to give you an opportunity to pass on any final thoughts. John, is there anything else you'd like to pass on to the community?
Yeah, I think we're just really looking forward to launching in the coming weeks, and launching anything in crypto is just it's a blast. It's a lot of work and a lot of stress, but it's always a really fun time. And we're looking forward to having another one right around the corner, and officially welcoming our new Heli. We need a Heli community name first and foremost. But officially welcoming this new community to the Heliswap project, and being part of the Hedera community officially.
Daniel, is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
I treat myself as a builder, and the last couple of months that we've worked on Heliswap is something that's not yet publicly open. And as I mentioned initially, I am excited to get to the point where we can open source everything to serve as example for other people, because the things that we did up until now, I'm not aware of other projects, for example, how they test their code in the Hedera ecosystem, etc. We are bringing that as an example. So I'm excited to share what we've done for the last couple of months to the developers of the Hedera ecosystem, because I think that it will be valuable for them to see it.
Really exciting stuff. Guys, thanks again for swinging by and giving us some time, and good luck with the launch.